There are lots of other ways that we can look at difference inside the workplace, so I'm going to hand over to Keith to explore some of those. Thank you.
Thanks, Saffron. Pink makes a point that if you want compliance, our current management thinking works very well. But if you want engagement, we're going to have to rethink how we do management. And I think what Saffron's talked about is about engagement. Some years ago, I was at the United Nations in Bangkok, was chatting to a global demographer who told me that based on how they measure difference and diversity according to the United Nations criteria, Southeast Asia, in which we do a lot of work, is the most diverse region on the planet. Any guesses as to the most diverse country according to their measure?
South Africa.
Sorry? India? No.
Brazil. South Africa.
Brazil? We're in it. South Africa. According to their measure, which I'm sure is debatable. And he was telling me that South Africans deal with up to 7 times more diversity every day in your work experience than any of your peers or counterparts globally. And one of my frustrations is that the South African voice isn't louder in the global conversation around what I think is a critical issue going forward, and that is about leading difference. Not because we have the answers, we know we don't have all the answers, but we certainly do have a lot of experience and a wealth of experience. And so back yourselves in your global conversations around difference and how to get the best out of difference. There's an African proverb that says if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And certainly when it comes to harnessing the value of difference, it takes a very different mindset. And we can't go as quickly, but I want to suggest we can go far. What we're going to ask you to do is, again, take out your pads. And the benefits of diversity would be those 4 things. There might well be more we could add to that, or more than 4 things, those 5 things. I'm going to ask you, as you think about difference, which do you think is the best or the most relevant business reason to engage directly and intentionally with difference because of those benefits? Which would you say is the biggest benefit? I'll give you a moment to consider that. There are your answers. Interesting. Innovation is a well-worn one, and certainly is a very strong product of being able to harness difference, and you can see for yourself all the way down. We have to make this case because managing difference is difficult, and it's not easy, and there are differences at many levels. There's personality difference, different individuals, which we're well worn with. There's cultural difference. There's, as we've just heard from Saffron, generational difference. There's organizational difference. There are geographical area difference. There are many differences, but we are needing leaders today in the new world of work who are skilled at building a framework that helps them do this. We were asked by an international, prominent international pharmaceutical company through a leadership program that they were running in 3 different areas, the Americas, Asia, and Europe, to design a day around helping their senior leaders across the globe deal with difference. It was wonderful work for us to do as Tomorrow Today. It was a collaborative effort. We all got involved, and we came out with a framework called Leading Difference, which really looks at those 5 things. They're fairly simple. But we believe that if you're going to successfully engage in difference, it has to involve head and heart. It can't just be theoretical. There's a lot of good theory around cultural difference, generational difference, etc. But it's one thing knowing it, and it's another thing feeling it and being motivated to do something differently. And so our approach to this particular subject is a framework that looks at both the head and heart. What do we need to know about difference, and what is it we need to actually do about difference? And we track through those 5 things. I'm not going to elaborate on them, but that forms basically the nucleus of a day in a program that can either be done as a keynote presentation, but is better served as more of a workshop day where we do experiential learning around those kind of 5 areas around difference. The point is that we often look at difference and we are tempted to see what is different. We need to get to a place where we see the connectivity in the difference. And that becomes a challenge in an environment, in a work environment. Not just to get stuck on the difference, but to go beyond the difference and understand the connectivity. The cedar forest in the United States, I believe one of the biggest organisms in the world, is so because it's connected in invisible areas. And the thing about differences, if we're just looking at the surface and we see the individual trees, we don't understand the connectivity. And that requires a very specific leadership mindset and skill set to, in a case of environmental difference in your particular environment, to understand the connectivity and how to harness that in order to realize the benefits that we put up right up front. The other point is that, and I think this is a critical one that underpins the day and our particular approach to difference, is how do we learn to move from being different from each other to being different for each other. It's no good just acknowledging our difference. We have to go beyond our difference. But to get beyond our difference, we have to start by acknowledging how we're different. And I think this is particularly where South Africans are fairly good at it compared to other contexts overseas. And so the day looks at, essentially, as a framework, how do we lead difference effectively? And ultimately, how in our organizations do we transition from being different from each other in order to be different for each other, and thereby realize the benefits that we've been talking about.